I, 21 male, have been abandoned by my family when I was around 12. You see, my parents got separated when I was 11. It took me by surprise because it seemed all fine between them. One fine day, they both sat me down and said they were getting divorced. I thought this to be a prank because I had different notions about divorce. I heard from my friends that when their parents got divorced, there was at least a year-long fight and yelling. In my case, it was a silent divorce. They said they both liked someone else. Mom would be moving out with her new boyfriend, while Dad's mistress would move into our house. They would have joint custody of me, since both Mom and Dad would be put up 2 miles apart. I could switch between them weekly. I didn't know what to say. Rather, I didn't have any say in that. My family was splitting apart, and all I could do was sit and sob. My parents assured me that I would be their topmost priority. They both promised all sorts of things, like getting me the latest video games, taking me on vacations, and getting me anything I wanted. I wish I could make them understand that I didn't want any of those things. I just wanted to live with them in the same house as a family. It was tough for me to see Mom packing her stuff and leaving the house, and watching Dad's mistress unloading her truck and setting my parents' bedroom as hers. Mom and Dad got separated on good terms. Stepmom had twin boys, almost the same age as me. They both hated me in the same way I hated them. My mom's boyfriend had a daughter from his previous wife, but she was living with her mother. I thought of spending more time at Mom's, but soon after she moved out, she got pregnant with her boyfriend's baby, and it all got so weird and complicated. I felt like I was not welcome there. Mom's husband got uncomfortable seeing me. They would get into PDAs in front of me, and I hated it. In my dad's house, I felt the same way because my stepmom and her sons hated me. So, I started living more and more with my aunt, my father's sister, who was also my godmother. She was 10 years older than my father, and she was living alone, so I occasionally showed up at hers. After a year of shuffling between the 3 houses, I permanently moved in with my aunt. It took more than 3 months for my parents to realize that I had moved in with Aunt. Mom thought I was at Dad's, and Dad thought I was at Mom's. They didn't bother to check on me during this period. They both were so busy with their own lives that they forgot I existed. My aunt was a real savior. She made me feel loved and wanted. She would take me out for dinners and movies. I used to tag along with her for vacations. During summer, we used to visit Grandpa at his farm in the countryside. It was fun living with her. Initially, Dad used to send my monthly allowance to Aunt, but eventually, he started defaulting on that. Sometimes Aunt used to remind them, and sometimes she would let it slide. I felt bad for piling up on her, so I started working for her and earning my living. She had a plant nursery, and I worked there after school. I also helped her with household chores, taking out the trash, and even running groceries for her. It was fun living with her. Meanwhile, my parents forgot they had a son. They even forgot my birthdays. Only when Aunt reminded them would they call and say they loved me so much. Sometimes I heard Aunt calling and informing them that I was sick, but none of them showed up. Even on my school's graduation day, none of them showed up. It was my aunt who was there to cheer me up. When Aunt called them out for their negligence, they would call me and apologize. I grew so resentful of them that I stopped answering their calls. Eventually, they stopped calling me. They would now lay the blame on me that I had grown rude and was not answering their calls. I said, "If you guys want to have a blame game, so be it. I'm not going to let that affect me. I don't want you guys in my life." After school, I went to university and moved out from Aunt's place. I still visit her every few months. I ensure to show up at her birthdays and holidays because she has also gotten attached to me in all these years. I'm in my final year at university. 3 months back, my grandpa, father's side, passed away. It was a terrible moment for both me and my aunt. We both were closest to him. Dad and my other uncles barely visited him. The irony is, they all turned up for his funeral and at the lawyer's office to see his will. Unfortunately for them, Grandpa gave all his belongings to Aunt, his 150-acre farmland, the farmhouse, and $1 million cash. The remaining money he gave off to charity. That was brutal. But if you know his side of the story, it would make sense. I'll write about that in another thread. Briefly understand that Grandpa was ill for a long time, and he wanted to meet his sons. Despite Aunt requesting her brothers to visit Grandpa, none of them showed up. Aunt shifted with him in his final days to take care of him. I had moved out for university by then. After getting possession of the property, Aunt called me home. Her house is what I call home. She told me she would be giving me that $1 million Grandpa had left for her. The happiness I felt was beyond words. Not because she gave me the money, well, somewhat, but moreover because it made me realize how much she cared for me. When I was living with her, I used to rant about how I wanted to start my own company, hire employees, and so on. She gave me the money and asked me to use it for my dream venture. I just hugged her and cried. If not for her, my life would have been miserable. It didn't take much time for this news to reach my parents. Bam! They suddenly started showering me with their unconditional love. They started calling and checking on me. I asked them to back off. I don't want you guys back in my life. Last week, Dad showed up at my dorm. Of course, he got the address from my aunt. I bet none of them remember which university I'm studying at. He said he was so proud that I would be graduating this year. After singing my praises, he asked me why I was not visiting his home. I asked him, "When was the last time you called?" He stood silent and said, "Oh, you're still mad at us for the divorce? Come on, move on. We both love you. Your mother also misses you. Let me drive you home, then we all can have dinner together." I said, "Back off. The only family I have is my aunt. You both abandoned me long ago. So quit showing off your fake love. I know why you're here. That $1 million brought you here, right?" He remained silent and said he had no ulterior motive except for love. He was there to say sorry and wanted me back in his life. He said he heard my graduation was nearing. Hence, he was here to ensure that I invited them, unlike school graduation day when I didn't call either of them. I hated having any conversation with him, so I left him midway, saying I had a class. The same day, I got a voicemail from Mom. She said she was expecting an invite for graduation day. She said she and Dad couldn't attend university, so they both always dreamed of me going to university, hence, she was very excited that I was able to cut through it. The thing is, I don't want either of them on my big day. I told my aunt about this, and she said it was up to me. But she suggested I reconcile with my parents. I don't know what to do. I also don't know if they're reconciling for the money, or if they are genuinely happy for me getting a university degree. Update 1. Hello there. Sorry for the late update. Life has been busy. Good news, I've graduated from university, and I landed a job as well. Thank you. Well, let me start by answering some of the common questions I got in the comments. First was about my aunt. People asked me about her family and how she was able to accommodate me for so many years. I think I wrote in my post that my aunt is 10 years older than my dad. When I moved to her place, she was in her late 50s. She was single. Her husband died in an accident when I was tiny, maybe 1 or 2 years old. She has a daughter who moved out in her teens for medical school. She is a cardiologist now and is settled in the UK. So, my aunt has been living alone. She didn't date any men after her husband's demise. Her daughter and I even tried to set her up with a few men, but she absolutely denied it. She said she loved her plants and was happy nursing them. Some of you said I was too harsh on my parents, that they have a right to get separated and remarry. You are all right. They do have the freedom to leave and choose their partner. But it is never justified to ignore your children after your new family comes into your life. My parents did the same. They neglected me for their new family. Initially, they said I would stay 1 week at Dad's and 1 week at Mom's. Though we were following the schedule, sometimes they would be like, it's my time again to have you. Then, they would always plan without me. Their dinner plans would always be after I left. They would even talk like this in front of me. "Oh, this week he's here. Let's go out next week." How would you feel when your parents behave like this? I think I've spoken about my mom, that within a few months of moving in with her new boyfriend, she got pregnant. They indulged in PDAs in front of me, which was unbearable. They once took me on a 2-day trip with them. They made me sit inside the room for the whole 2 days while they went outside sunbathing. When they were in the room, they would ask me to sit on the balcony outside. Though I was a kid, I knew exactly what was going on inside. I mean, I was 11. Besides, I could hear them doing stuff. Gross, I know. And that man is not even my father, so how do you expect me to stick around them? I stopped going to Mom's after that. Dad was still better than Mom. Sometimes he tried to include me in the plans, but his stepsons would throw tantrums at him. Then he would say, "Okay, skip this one. Maybe next week, father and son could go fishing." That next week would never come because next week I would be at Mom's. Soon I realized my parents had some sort of agreement. Whenever they had to get rid of me, they would say, "Let's do it next week." And then next week I would be the other one's responsibility. Once, Dad was able to tag me along on their family vacation, and it was so horrible. On the first day, we all went out, but his wife and her sons kept him busy, and I felt so neglected. Even for the family pictures, they would ask me to take their pictures. I was in none of the pictures with them. There were just 4 pictures of me. In 3 of them, I was alone, and in 1, it was just me and Dad. I guess now I have given enough context to people who have been telling me that I was too harsh on my parents. Anyway, talking about the current situation, like I said, my parents wanted me back in their life. They said it was because they wanted to be part of my graduation day, and it was a proud moment for them. I said, "I don't want you guys on my big day. Where were you guys during my high school graduation? Busy with your new family, that's right." When they persisted further, I said okay, but I didn't invite them. I thought they would again reach out to me as the graduation day approached. I even got extra hall tickets for them, in case they showed up uninvited, but they didn't. They forgot about it. Aunt attended the convocation. I strictly asked her not to reveal the dates to my parents. It's almost a month now since my graduation day, but none of them called me to check for the dates, so my graduation was just an excuse for them to have me back in their life. Update 2. Here's a new update. Almost 2.5 months after my graduation day, Mom called me and said my half-sister had graduated from primary school, and now they have put her in a private elementary school. However, they have a shortage of funds, and they want me to pitch in. I was flabbergasted at her demand. When I asked why, she said, "She's your sister, so you should fund her education." She didn't waste any time coming to the point. She said, "We know that your aunt has given away her $1 million inheritance money to you." "Of course you do," she continued. "Your sister needs you. This is your time to step up and be a big brother." I stopped her right there. "Hello, delusional you. I have never even seen that sister you're talking about. Where were you when I needed my mom? When I was sick and cold? You were nowhere." She started sobbing and said, "What can I say if you're still stuck in the past? I thought you have a huge sum of money. What are you going to do with it? What's better than your sister getting educated in a private school?" I wanted to say a lot, but I didn't. I said I had plans for that money, and I cannot spare a penny to anyone else. She hung up the phone after that. She didn't even ask me about my graduation day. I was right. Their rekindled love was only for money. I was still processing it when one day I got a call from a bank. They wanted me to pay for my dad's defaulted mortgage. I asked where they got my number from. They said Dad gave it to them. Dad had taken a personal loan and hadn't paid the mortgage for a few months. When they came hunting for him, he requested them to contact me because he had run out of money. To be honest, I panicked initially because I had no idea how this process works. I got crap scared thinking maybe I was legally obligated to pay his debt since I was his son. Thankfully, I didn't succumb to the pressure and told them I needed to check with my dad first. Instead of talking to him, I called my lawyer friend. He wasn't a lawyer yet, still in his final year of law school, but he knew the felonies quite well. He said no, I was not legally bound. I asked him, "Then how come the bank called me for the money?" He said the recovery agent has the leverage to recover the amount from anyone who wants to pay on the loanee's behalf, but I can refuse at any time. I didn't call Dad after that. I knew he would plead with me to pay his mortgage. Knowing it wasn't on me, I waited for the bank to call again. They called after a week and asked when I would be giving them the money. The recovery agent had a certain assertive tone to scare people. I was intimidated the first time, but this time I charged at them. I said, "Who gave you the right to talk to me like this? Did I default on the mortgage? No, right? Then you better watch your tone. I'm not going to pay a penny. You can contact the person who defaulted, not me." They apologized and hung up. I didn't need to school them, but I deliberately did so. They could unleash their anger on the original defaulter, my dad. A couple of hours later, I got a call from Dad's wife. Sorry, I can't call her mom or even stepmom. I was thinking, why don't you clear off his mortgage and his stepson would pay you back once he gets a job? I almost laughed out loud at the audacity. I said, you mean the same stepson who threw tantrums every time Dad tried to include me in his plans? The same stepson who made sure I was excluded from every family picture and every family outing? The same stepson who got everything he ever wanted from Dad while I was left out in the cold? That stepson. Mom tried to do damage control. Come on, sweetheart. Let bygones be bygones. We are family, and family supports each other. I had heard enough. I stood up and said, no, we are not family. We stopped being family the moment you both decided to treat me like an unwanted guest in your new lives. You only remembered me now because of the money. It was never about my graduation, my achievements, or me as a person. It was always about what I could give you. Well, here's my answer. Nothing. Dad lowered his head again, and Mom started her usual sobbing routine. But I wasn't moved this time. I thanked them for the dinner and left. Later that night, I got a text from Dad. It was long and full of emotional blackmail. How he was old, how life had been hard on him, how he just wanted to make things right before it was too late. I didn't respond. I couldn't. It hurts, you know? As much as I want to say I'm over it, a part of me still wishes I had parents who actually cared. But the reality is, they care about money, not me. Aunt told me I made the right call. She said I deserved to build my own future without guilt-tripping myself for people who never prioritize me. She even reminded me that money can be rebuilt, but peace of mind is priceless. So that's where I stand now. I'm focusing on my job, my future, and my happiness. My parents can figure out their mess on their own. But honestly, what do you guys think? Was I too harsh? Should I have handled it differently? Or did they finally get what they deserved? Story 2. So me and my boyfriend have been dating for about 4 months now. We were long-distance friends for a month before we started dating. We started dating after I moved to his state. His family knew about me before we started dating. He would occasionally hype me up to his family and show them pictures of me with my consent. I finally got introduced to his family at a family barbecue. They're a bunch of fun people, they drink a lot, but they're fun. However, his brother got a bit too wasted at the BBQ. Me, my boyfriend, and him are sitting and drinking on the porch, while everyone else is in the yard playing and dancing. He out of nowhere asks, "Hey, did you ever send him a tit pic?" "You should have." My boyfriend just kind of brushes him off, being like, come on, leave her alone. But I'm really uncomfortable that he asked that around the rest of his family. I nervously laugh and ask him, "What? Why would you ask me that?" Apparently my boyfriend had said something along the lines of, "She's got a hot body," to his family while talking about me. I didn't want to be around either of them at the moment, so I got up and went to join his family in the yard. Hyping up my job, personality, or stuff like that is fine, but it feels a bit weird to hype up my hot body to his family. After I went to the yard, that was the end of that convo. Later that night, I tried to bring up to my BF that I was uncomfortable with his brother and also ask him about how he's been talking about me to his family. He says he's too tired and to chill out. You're taking it a bit too serious. I don't bring it up again. Fast forward to the next time we're all together again, and his brother's acting weird once more. My boyfriend and his dad are doing karaoke while his mom and sister are getting the food ready. I'm sitting on the couch, holding my boyfriend's little nephew on my lap. His brother stops singing and plops down next to me. I'm a bit surprised and a little scared by the way he sat down. I try to ignore him, but I suddenly feel a hand rubbing my waist. I whip my head to see that it's his hand. I'm stuck frozen for some reason and ask him what he's doing. He says he was just looking for my phone, take it easy. I scoot away from him on the couch and avoid him for the rest of the night. Later on, I try to tell my BF what happened. He says that it was probably an accident. He's not that type of guy. That he's just been acting a bit weird since he lost his job, and to not pay him much attention. At this point, I'm confused on what I'm supposed to do. I want to hang out with my BF's family, but I don't like the way his brother behaves. I can't tell if I'm overreacting like my BF is saying, or if his brother is making a move. Update 1. I took some time to really take the comments to heart and try to understand what everyone has been saying. I think I really underestimated dating an older guy. This whole thing has been draining and I feel gross about them. I don't think I can deal with him and his brother. And I realize now, after really hearing you guys out, that it's probably best to just break up with him. Update 2. So I'm not sure if anyone cares since it's been a year, but I just wanted to write an update. So I'm now 20. I told my aunt about how my boyfriend and his brother were behaving, and boy did she go mama bear mode, but rightfully so. She ended up getting me to join some women's support groups. My now ex-boyfriend did go ballistic when I broke up with him. He showed up on campus and yelled at me, saying I was an ungrateful bitch, and that all I was good for was being an easy piece of ass. He did get removed from campus grounds for starting a scene, but it was just embarrassing. People heard and saw it, and I didn't know how to react until someone stepped in. I haven't dated since the last situation with my creepy boyfriend. Maybe I'm just a bit paranoid of it happening again. I've learned a lot about healthy relationships from the support groups, but I just worry that I'll find myself on the bad end of another relationship. Recently, a classmate of mine asked me out, and he's a really nice guy also. This time, no huge age gap. We study together and occasionally hang out. He's been pretty helpful whenever I don't understand something. I did reject going out with him. I told him I wasn't ready to start dating again yet, and he respected that and hasn't made any moves on me or anything. But I also thought my last boyfriend was nice, and he turned out to be a low-key predator. I don't want to be paranoid and fearful of dating, but I also don't want to accidentally put myself in another situation. How do I handle this?